And the sympathetic nervous system is mobilizing, ready for action, that fight or flight. Your heart rate is going to increase, your breath is going to be faster. It's associated with adrenaline and cortisol and coldness. So those are some things that have kind of helped me understand it and visualize what's happening in our body. And mind body skills is about noticing which part of our nervous system is engaged and doing something to invite the other part of our nervous system to engage to balance that out. And that is the relaxation response. So, um, before Herbert Benson talked about this in the 1970s, people were talking about the stress response, and he brought up, well, there's also the opposite, which is the relaxation response, and he coined that term. And the relaxation response is when our parasympathetic response is engaged and it lowers our heart rate and our blood pressure and it increases a sense of well-being. And mind body skills activate the relaxation response. And this is kind of a visual. If you look at the um, graph of a wave, that, like I said, the goal is not to have any, is not to not have any stress in your life. It's to be able to flow between stress response, relaxation response, and to not get stuck. If you can see above where it says chronic overactivation and hyperarousal may ensue, and also chronic shutdown and hypoarousal can ensue if you're in either area too much. So, this is really interesting to me. Brain imaging research shows that the greater number of connections between our amygdala and prefrontal cortex, the better we tend to be at managing our emotions. So, kind of going back to when we had the visual of the brain, we talked about how stress is engaging the different parts of our brain. Um, One way I like to think about this is that the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, meditation is kind of like inviting them to be friends and to talk to each other. Because when we're really stressed, sometimes our brain bypasses the prefrontal cortex. And it's like, I don't need you, I just need to survive this situation. Where the prefrontal cortex is what can help us calm down and think rationally. And so, if we're practicing mindfulness and meditation on a regular basis, we're developing this connection between our amygdala and our prefrontal cortex, and we can better manage our emotions. Chronic levels of stress contribute to fewer neural connections between them, and that impacts our psychosocial functioning. And common outcomes of chronic stress include stomach and intestinal disorders, high blood pressure, heart problems, and emotional problems. And so, even if our only goal was to have healthy physical functioning, then we need to understand stress and prevent chronic stress. And I'm using the word stress a lot, but I also want to note that obviously stress is also connected with anxiety. Stress is really connected to trauma and the trauma response as well. So let's talk about, we've mentioned it a little bit, but let's talk about some of these physical effects. This is like the most comprehensive drawing I could find, and it is not comprehensive at all. So it just sounds, if you've noticed, if you've gone to the doctor for any reason or the hospital, they're like, or it could be stress. And that's just like so frustrating that that could be the source of whatever problem you're having. But going through, starting at the top, stress can be tied to headaches, chronic migraines, increased depression, heartburn, which just seems so strange. Like that, the heartburn could be because of stress, insomnia, not being able to sleep well, rapid breathing, weakened immune system, high blood pressure, heart attack. Um, Stomach ache, and I would also say like ulcers, IBS, fertility problems, erectile dysfunction, low sex drive, missed periods, tense muscles. Um, I remember being pregnant and them saying like it's important to lower your stress when you're pregnant because it will impact the development of your child. When you're breastfeeding, make sure you're not stressed because that will pass through your milk. Stress is in our bodies. and it can impact all of our functioning. Um, Hair loss, people are like, oh, it also could be stress. Um, Stress is involved with our metabolism as well. Um, and I kind of mentioned this before when we talked about the fight or flight, but I want you to think about, where do you feel in your body when you are stressed? How do you how do you know? How can you tell? Um, it doesn't mention this, but I have like grinding in my teeth, like jaw pain, jaw issues that have to do with stress. Even if you think, I remember when my dentist told me that, I was like, I'm not stressed. You might not be aware of that stress, but your body is. So, there's this book called Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, and I really recommend it. It's really easy and fun and funny to read, and taught me a lot about it. Its subtitle is Burnout and How to Complete the Stress Cycle. And this was um, just mind-blowing for me, is understanding the difference between stress and stressors. So, a lot of times we say, I'm stressed, I have this big deadline at work. Once that deadline's over, I'm not going to be stressed anymore. Maybe the deadline at work is the stressor. It's the thing that's causing the stress, but separate from that stressor is what's happening in your body as a response to that stressor. And so the deadline passes, the stressor is gone, but the stress in your body is not gone unless you do something with your body to rebalance and process that stress. So this was just very fascinating to me. So you have to do something to that signals to your body that you are safe, and your body speaks body language. So how do you tell your body that you're safe besides saying, I'm safe, just relax, is doing things with your body that signal that you are safe. So, um, and I have a reference page at the end, but just the more you learn about mind-body medicine and you look at what does research say about this? Meditation changes your brain wave activity, your frontal cortex, limbic system, hypothalamus. It increases your parasympathetic activity. It increases your heart rate variability. It changes neurotransmitter levels of serotonin, endorphins, melatonin, um, and decreases cortisol. It increases cortical thickness and that brain connectivity that we talked about. And if you search for, we're going to talk about specifically guided imagery later, but if you look at what's the relationship between guided imagery and health outcomes, specifically, there was a study done on cancer patients, and meditation helps all aspects of our body and of healing. And so, guided imagery, for example, is tied to better outcomes for cancer patients. So, there's been a lot of research about this, and I think there will continue to be, and there will be more things that we learn along the way. So, I keep talking about mind body skills, mind body skills. When you use mind body skills, all these wonderful, amazing things happen. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about meditation, and we're going to talk about different forms of meditation. These are um, how the Center for Mind Body Medicine has kind of honed in on mind body skills and what they consider mind body skills. And we're going to talk more about the groups that mind body medicine runs, and that I specifically facilitate as a facilitator with them. And these groups teach each of these skills and you kind of build upon them. So, meditation, guided imagery, drawing as a reflective journaling practice, journaling, spirituality, connecting with your spirituality, self-awareness and self-expression, genograms, nutrition and mindful eating, autogenics and biofeedback, and movement. We're going to talk more specifically about what kind of movement we're talking about. But that's what I'm talking about when I keep saying mind body skills. And the goal is for to experience mindfulness instead of mindfulness. So I often feel like this left side, and there's an emotional and mental load that we carry as human beings, especially navigating adulthood and balancing work and family and our homes and lots of different things. And meditation allows us to clear that space and not all the time. It's not that you never think about your to-do list. It's being able to choose and being present and shifting your focus and being able to calm and clear your mind when you want to. And mindfulness increases our control over our reactions. I keep saying the word empowering, but I really feel like that's what has stood out to me as I've practiced this is that there's this quote from Viktor Frankl about between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space, we choose how we respond. And a lot of times I've thought, where is that space? Because everything happens so fast. But the more I practice mind body skills, the more I can feel and sense that space between a stimulus and a response and choose how I want to respond. So, the foundation to all of mindfulness and mind body medicine is breathing, and not and a specific type of breathing that the Center for Mind Body Medicine calls soft belly breathing. And so, why is this important to do soft belly breathing? Soft belly breathing is breathing in through your nose, slowly, deeply, and out through your mouth, and really trying to soften your belly and imagine that there's a balloon in your belly that's inflating as you breathe in and deflating as you breathe out. And why? Why does it matter how we breathe? When we do soft belly breathing specifically, more air goes to the bottom of the lungs where there's better oxygen exchange, and oxygen feeds all the cells in your body. And soft belly breathing quiets the body, slows the heart rate, improves digestion, lowers blood pressure. When our abdominal muscles relax, all the other muscles begin to relax as well. And this also allows us to quiet our mind. And so I feel like often we're kind of like sucking in or trying to engage our core. But when we're soft belly breathing, we're really relaxing and softening our belly. And so we're going to do a little bit of that right now to kind of experience what that feels like. But just kind of some more information about that before we do that. Soft belly breathing reduces the activity of the amygdala, which is connected to fear and anger. And it increases the activity of the vagus nerve, which is connected to judgment, self-awareness, and compassion. And our vagus nerve connects with centers in our brain that make it easier to connect with other people and bond. So this is very fascinating to me, and I honestly don't feel like I fully can comprehend this, but soft belly breathing is inviting a connection in our brain that allows us to empathize, to focus, to connect with people, and to feel compassion by breathing. So that just seems amazing and magical, honestly. Um, it's relaxing your body and bringing your body into balance and quieting our fight or flight response, improving activity in our nervous system and all the systems in our body, and increases our self-awareness, connection, closeness, compassion, and all this relieves stress. So we're going to do that a little bit right now. And it can be hard to when we just breathe, our mind might start to race, especially if you haven't practiced this before. And it is a practice, and the more you do it, the more natural it'll feel to you. But if you're having a hard time, if you feel your mind wandering, that's okay. Just notice it and invite it back to focusing on your breath and thinking about the actual sensation of air going in through your nose, air filling up your belly, deflating and coming out of your mouth, and really trying to just think about breathing. So get comfortable, and it can be easier to close your eyes, or you can find one place, lowering your gaze on the floor to kind of relax your eyes if you don't want to close your eyes. And we're going to breathe in through our nose. You can put your hands on your belly to feel as you breathe in through your nose, feel your belly expand like a balloon and breathe out through your mouth, deflating that balloon. Breathing in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. As you breathe out, try to exhale as much as you can, like you're emptying out your belly. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. If your thoughts are wandering, just invite your thoughts to come back to your breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. As you soften your belly and as you breathe, soften into all the parts of your body. Notice where you are tense and breathe into those tense places, inviting relaxation. Let's do 3 more breaths. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. With this last breath, make it your deepest and your slowest. In through your nose, holding at the top and out through your mouth. Really lengthening that exhale and opening your eyes. I take a moment to check in with your body and your mind and how that feels after slowing down your breath and bringing that attention to your breath. And some other ways that this can help is if that was hard for you to focus your mind on breathing, it can help to visualize. Sometimes people like to visualize a color, like breathing in a color, imagining that color kind of running through your body, breathing out that color, or thinking of a phrase. So at the very beginning, we thought this moment, that really helps me a lot. Um, but another phrase you could think of is soft belly. So soft belly as you breathe. And kind of depending on our time, we might do more breathing exercises, but throughout mind body medicine, and we'll talk more about kind of the structure of the groups, but there's always breathing, no matter what other skill you're working on, breathing is a part of everything else that you're doing. And this is something too, if you've engaged in certain their mind body um, like exercises, so yoga and Pilates, and they'll talk about your breath and paying attention to your breath, and that's kind of the foundation of the exercise. So it's the same thing throughout mind body medicine. Another part of mind body medicine is a check-in. And so check-in is I like to think of it as often we say, "Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you?" And that's not really true, or maybe we haven't even stopped to think about whether or not that is true. So a lot of times we're moving so fast that we don't really know how we're actually doing. Or maybe we're moving so fast because we don't want to pay attention to how we're actually doing. And that's a really common trauma response is to just stay really busy so you don't have to think about how you're feeling and how you're doing. And so check-in is a principle and a practice and a skill that is foundational in mind body medicine, is having the self-awareness and integrating that mind and body. And so practicing saying, how am I doing mentally? Like, how am I doing in my mind today? And how am I doing physically? And how are those things maybe related or not related in this moment? Um, and then self-expression of how do you put that into words and practice the connection that comes when you actually share that and are open with people that you trust about how you're actually doing. So take a minute to kind of think about that for yourself right now is how would you, first, the self-awareness. How are you doing in this moment? How are you showing up to this presentation? What are you bringing with you from your day? Um, and how is your body doing? And so just take a minute to think about that. And maybe you noticed when you were breathing, how your body was feeling. A lot of times breathing helps me notice for the first time in the day how my body is feeling. Where am I holding tension? Where is it tight? Where is it painful? And breathing into that and kind of softening helps me work through that. And then thinking about how you might express that to somebody else of how you're doing today. And just a note on time, we're gonna be taking a break in about 3 minutes. So another mind body skill I mentioned is movement. There are a few different movement options when we do a group, but my favorite are shaking and dancing. Dancing, most people have tried at least once in their lifetime, but shaking on purpose for this reason is often something that people have not tried, and often something that people really connect with. So, in the book Burnout as well, they talk about shaking, and I really liked some of these points that they made is shaking mimics the way animals in the wild release tension after a threat, and maybe you've seen that with your dog, like really shaking their whole body. But it allows our nervous system to return to a state of safety and equilibrium. Shaking is a way to process physical stress that accumulates in the body, and it shifts the body from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state, from that stress response to the relaxation response, the fight or flight to resting. It loosens muscles that have been holding a lot of tension. A lot of times our body is physically holding tension and is tight, and that takes a toll on our body. And so shaking really releases that tension. And it also releases emotions. So, like we keep talking about with the mind and the body, that we're physically holding tension and we're emotionally holding tension. And so, shaking can release stuck emotions. If you've been feeling stuck in anxiety, stuck in fear, stuck in anger, um, actually moving your body and allowing those emotions to move through your body and imagining those emotions moving through your body can help. It shifts our focus from overthinking mentally to the sensations in our body, and that can reduce mental fog. And you don't need any special equipment. It's just about moving or shaking your body for 2 to 3 minutes, and it signals to your brain that danger has passed. So, in mind body medicine, we shake to just like a drum beat sometimes. But my favorite song to shake to is Get Up Off of That Thing by James Brown. I feel like he wrote it for this purpose. It says, get up off of that thing, shake till you feel better, get up off of that thing, try to release that pressure. And it's just fun and funny. And so shaking is something where if you hit that 3 o'clock slump at work, or if you just had a really heavy, intense, emotional staff meeting and where you're talking about a problem that feels so insurmountable, just saying, okay, we don't really know the solution right now, but we're going to, as a team, shake, and everyone laughs and it like breaks up the tension and it releases those endorphins and kind of is energizing. Or if you're just been in a rut with like emails and administrative tasks and you feel your eyes are glazing over, pausing and shaking can kind of rejuvenate you and allow you to finish out the rest of your work. So we're gonna pause there, and let's just take a 5 minute break, and feel free to use the restroom, get some water, shake. You could look up, get up off that thing. It is like 7 minutes long, so you don't have to do the whole thing. But let's take a break and come back in 5 minutes. We in mind body medicine is dancing. So usually the same time we introduce shaking, we also dance and we kind of compare the different feelings that that can bring up in our minds and our bodies. And if you haven't danced recently, I think a lot of times in adulthood we stop doing that. It feels so good. And so, um, dancing is another mind-body skill that can get you back in tune with your body and how it feels to move your body. Other forms of mind-body movement are yoga and qigong. I also highly recommend qigong. You can just search on YouTube intro qigong and it's just delightful. And just noticing how your body feels after doing qigong versus before is really amazing. Um, the next mind body skill I want to talk about is guided imagery. So, imagery is another thing that maybe is more common for people to have experienced. But the idea is visualization, but also more than just visualization is engaging all the senses of your body. So when you use your imagination to engage all of your senses, the same chemicals are released in your brain as if that thing were happening. So an example is like watching a scary movie, and if you're engaging your senses and you feel like you're there, your heart rate is gonna start, your body is gonna think that that is happening to you. And similarly, you can do that in a positive way or in a relaxation way. And so when you imagine a place or you imagine positive things happening, you imagine relaxation, then your body is responding as if that's actually happening. And that's really powerful. Once again, I think when you can't control the environment around you, being able to do that in your body really allows you to create that internal environment of calm and relaxation. And so we're gonna do a little guided imagery right now. Um, and so um, yeah, I think this practice isn't it just introduces you to the physiological response to imagery. And then I'll kind of talk about how else we use guided imagery in mind body medicine. But once again, we're going to relax, get comfortable, and if you are comfortable closing your eyes, that can help you kind of focus and get in tune with this. And we're going to bring our attention to our breath at the beginning. So as you get comfortable in your seat and bring your attention to your breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And bring your attention to the idea of imagine that you are in a kitchen, and it could be any kitchen. It could be your kitchen, your grandma's kitchen, your kitchen that you grew up in, your dream kitchen. But start to take in that environment. What can you see in the kitchen? What can you hear? Imagine what sounds you might hear in this kitchen in this moment. As you breathe in and as you breathe out, what do you smell in the kitchen? What colors and textures stand out to you? Notice the lighting, the temperature of the air, and how it feels on your skin. Notice the floor beneath you and how it feels under your feet. Are you barefoot? Are you wearing shoes or socks? Take a moment to just breathe and be in this kitchen. And notice a bowl on the counter full of fruit. And reach into this bowl and feel a lemon in your hand. How does the lemon feel in your hand? And on the counter, there's a cutting board and a knife. Place the lemon on the cutting board and cut the lemon into 4 pieces. What does it sound like and feel like as you cut into the lemon? Maybe you notice some lemon juice squirt onto your hand. Now pick up a piece. How does it feel in your hand now that it has been cut? Slowly lift it to your nose and take a deep breath in. Smell the lemon and bite into that lemon. And open your eyes. What did you experience in the kitchen? Maybe what surprised you about this experience? How did it feel in your body to smell and bite into the lemon?
I could literally taste the lemon.
Yes, I'm so glad. My mouth waters and my jaw responds every time, even just saying it, which I'm not fully engaged on the imagery, but just saying it, I respond. I'm so glad you could taste the lemon. Anybody else want to share what this was like for you? Or maybe what surprised you? You can share if it was hard for you. Did you feel like you were actually in the kitchen, or did you feel like you were wherever you were right now?
I mean,
I
I
think,
love,
oh, you can go ahead first.
yeah, I was just gonna say I like love sour things in general, so my mouth was definitely salivating.
Yay, I'm so glad.
When I opened my eyes, it was like a shock that I like was in my body, which was
Mhm.
really surprising to me because my mind was just so like somewhere so different than where I am right now. And so having that like shock factor really surprised me.
Yes, oh, I'm so glad. So yeah, guided imagery, it's not like every day if you imagine you bite into a lemon, your life is going to be good. This is just an example of what you can do with your imagination and to experience that your brain signaled to your body that you were in a kitchen or that you were biting into a lemon or smelling a lemon. And you can do that in whatever ways you want to. And so, back to the example of cancer patients, research was shown that as cancer patients as they're receiving treatment, if they used guided imagery to imagine healing, to imagine ringing the bell, they saw better outcomes than patients who were in the control and did not use guided imagery. And so, the main way that we introduce this usually in mind body skills groups is also doing a safe space guided imagery. And I don't know if we'll have time to do that today, but we might. And that's really powerful to me is that a lot of times uh, we have places where we feel the most safe, where our body relaxes, where our nervous system acknowledges this is a safe space for me. Or maybe we don't have that kind of space, but we can imagine it. Either way, we can't always be in that place physically, but we can mentally. And that kind of goes back to mind body medicine isn't about always being present and engaged and no distractions, and you never have a cell phone and you are always meditating. It's about um, understanding and choosing when to connect and in different ways. And so to me, guided imagery and safe space guided imagery, where you imagine that you're in a safe space, is a really positive, productive, helpful way to escape. Today I was feeling really depressed from the news, and I watched a series of figure ice skating YouTubes, which really was beautiful and lovely. And I like really helped me kind of I was like, I'm disassociating through figure ice skating again. And I would recommend that too. But I think guided imagery and like you could imagine the world that you want to see in the future. You could imagine you accomplishing your goals. You can imagine um, different positive things to ground you and to also um, kind of, yeah, like escape whatever is causing stress in the moment. So those are just some of the mind body skills I kind of mentioned um, that we do in a group. There are more besides those, but those I just wanted to highlight a few. And I also wanted to highlight this quote I think is really beautiful that as humans, we are defined by our need to connect and to co-regulate. Human survival is dependent on opportunities to successfully co-regulate with one another. Our biological imperative is that our lives are meant to be intertwined with the lives of others. And mind body medicine is done in a group and conducted in a group, and also the skills done on your own will allow you to better connect with others. Um, and so I just think this is really powerful and poignant. And also this idea of co-regulation. Um, if you are working in crisis, if you are working with people experiencing trauma, um, you want to teach regulation skills, but you can't make someone regulate in the moment, but you can regulate yourself. And that invites co-regulation and invites an environment where people can regulate. And so I do this with my toddlers all the time where I'll try to remind them, say, can you take a deep breath? They're like, how? But I'll just start breathing super deeply and not obnoxiously, like loud, like slow, deep breathing, or I'll just hold them while I slow and deep, and it helps me so much to not freak out at them. And then it also is contagious. And so regulating yourself is the best thing that you can do in intense environment. And it really invites that co-regulation, that connection, and for other people to do the same. So we kind of talked about some of these. I'm going to talk more about the logistics and format of mind-body skills groups and what that looks like. So kind of like each group is focused on one of these skills, and there's um, the same kind of format each time. And the idea is that the skills build on each other, and doing them one at a time, like a week apart, allows you to practice and really integrate it into your life in between. So we've kind of talked about mind body medicine and what it is and some skills that help you practice it. But the way that you do that is ideally by participating in a group. And so this allows you to kind of connect on each different skill. And these groups are kind of the principles and the environment that we're trying to create is a meditative, safe space that has mutual respect. It's educational. There's a psychoeducation, kind of like tonight, where you're learning before you do the skill, you learn why you would do that skill and kind of what's happening to you when you do that skill. And then you practice it all together and then you share the experience. It's about staying in the moment, the facilitator. So, for example, me, when I facilitate a group, I'm also a participant. And I really love that. I think that some in a lot of professional environments, the provider is not a real person, like not a human, and is like um what am I just trying to say? Like an expert or not maybe open about what this is like for them. But mind body medicine really creates this environment where the facilitator is a participant and they're sharing as well and they're practicing as well and you're doing it together. And I really found that to be a powerful part of the healing component. And it's really about empowering everyone to know themselves and to take care of themselves and to know how to take care of themselves. Um, and the group really allows us to grow and learn from each other. And there's a structure to each group, but there's also a lot of flexibility. And as you all know in your own fields, working with like being with humans is unpredictable. And so you might have a plan for how it's going to go, and then it goes a different direction. But each group, it's important for it to be a small group where that kind of intimacy and trust can build. So the ideal group number is about 10 to 12 people. And this creates pro-social connection and creates safety and inclusivity. And then that group of 10 to 12 people meets for 2 hours once a week for 8 weeks. So it's an 8 week group. And that's a huge commitment. And a lot of people are like, when am I going to have time for that? And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But really, um, yeah, coming tonight really helps you. Maybe you've already know you were already introduced to some of these things. Maybe some of these things are new, but then it would be really hard to after tonight really practice all these things if you don't have more structure. And so this creates a structure of practicing together and learning in a group. And each group starts with an opening meditation, and then there's that check-in where in the group, what we talked about of like sharing how you're doing physically and mentally and how you're showing up in the group and being able to express that, everyone takes a turn doing that. So everyone checks in, and you can pass, you don't have to check in. And then there's a piece of psychoeducation where you learn the science about the skill. We practice the skill together, we share the experience and talk about what that was like and discuss how we integrate that into home practice. And then there's a closing meditation. So each of those 8 weeks has that same structure, and there's just a new skill that you're focusing on. And so, who could benefit from this and how would this look like? I mentioned kind of how much time and investment that is. And my last and previous employer, we did it at work with employees. So we did it with the social workers and case managers and therapists and um, different staff members during work hours, and it was part of our like paid work day and co contributed to training hours that we needed for our job. And I think that's the ideal because if you're working 40 hours a week and then you have other things and other responsibilities, and then you're also trying to go to a 2 hour group, it's a lot. But being able to do that at work is a really amazing way. So if you're a business owner or you're in a leadership position or an administrative role, and being able to advocate that for the staff. And that's really powerful, especially if maybe you're in a position where you're teaching people these things, but you don't have an opportunity to really practice it yourself, and be able to take care of having that own self-care is really important and part of that preventing burnout. And also, it's an investment of the employer to say, you're a whole human and we care about you as a whole human and not just the work that you provide for us. And we recognize that you investing in stress management and learning how to balance the stress from this job and the stress from your home life is going to allow you to do better at your job is a really amazing investment. Another way is in schools with children, with teens, with people who are receiving treatment for stress and anxiety or trauma, people who are preparing to give birth or experiencing postpartum could really benefit from this. General well-being and in healthcare settings, there's lots of ways to integrate mind-body medicine into wherever you're showing up. And so here's some references from the things we talked about. I mentioned this that this is not great like formatting or like consistent formatting, but I did give tribute to obviously um, this presentation is not about me or what I know. It's about a lot of different people's work. And something I wanted to touch base on as well um, is that mind body medicine is not a new trend or fad. It is ancient, and people all over the world are integrating their minds and their bodies. When we talked about shaking and dancing specifically, that's something that many of our ancestors did, and in a lot of places in the world, people still do in communities, is dancing together, moving together, especially when as a community they're experiencing something hard or when there's like a war happening or something like that. One of my favorite experiences is I had the chance to do some research in Namibia in my undergrad, and we came across people dancing. And I was like, what's going on? Like, is there like something you're celebrating? And they're like, circumcision. Like all the boys just got circumcised. And I, at the time, kind of laughed and was like, okay, this is my first circumcision dance party. Like, let's go. But now looking back at it, I'm like, that's traumatic, is having all these little boys be circumcised, and that's their way as a community of moving through that together. And I think that's really beautiful. And so this is these skills, and obviously with meditation and mindfulness, there are you could YouTube videos of monks, and they've done EKGs and studied their brain waves, and it's just incredible how meditation impacts your brain, and how people have been doing this for a really long time and are experts on this. And so I'm not an expert on this. I'm someone who's practicing it and learning a lot every time I facilitate a group. Part of that facilitation and connection is I learn so much from the people in the group, and um, every time I talk about this. So these are some of the references, and then also some recommended resources. So the Center for Mind Body Medicine has a lot of information on their website, which is cmbm.org. So Center for Mind Body Medicine, just each letter, cmbm.org. And some books that I've personally read that I feel like really just kept saying the same thing in different ways and really reinforced, like I said, that this is scientific. This is something that lots of different experts in different fields understand and know about. So these are some books that I've read and really loved, and also some podcast episodes that really helped me kind of understand these principles in different ways as well. So yeah, I wanted to, oh, and then contacting me, like, kind of what this could look like. So I'm doing some in-person workshops next week. And that's kind of the same information that we did today, but a little bit more interactive and engaging and practicing along the way. And I'm hoping to do an 8-week group starting February 21st. And I'm really open to partnering and contracting. There are a few mind body medicine facilitators in Utah, but not many. And if you're interested in becoming a facilitator, going to that website and looking at their training opportunities is a really great way for you to also experience this. I had very minimal experience as a participant before I started the training. So it's not something that you'd have to come to a group before you start the training. Um, and there's my contact information. Does anyone have any questions?
So for someone to join a group, they could go to that website and find where local facilitators are.
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you go to the website, you can look up who is like certified in your area, and you could contact them. For me personally, I had this like Instagram down here, Full Mind Mindful, that in my email address, that would be a way of knowing like when I'm running a group. I don't know of any open to the public right now. From like honestly, I know personally who their facilitators in Utah. Um, and I don't know of any others who are doing any public groups. But that's a good question. I don't know if there's a really easy way of knowing that. And I'm
And
not just
then,
saying that so you contact me. I honestly,
right, right. And just, people around the country and such. But,
yes.
and then do you do it always in person or is it virtual sometimes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have done it. So yeah, most of my experience before was with like my employer, and so I did virtual groups with foster parents and in person and with the youth that we worked with. But yeah, I'd be open to doing that. I don't have any virtual planned yet, but that's something too. Where in order to run a group, I would just need like 8 people to commit to doing it, and I'd be happy to do virtual or in person, but that's something where if it was just one person, that would look probably a little different.
Got it. Cool. Thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Erica. This was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. You did great. And I'm wondering, I use a lot of EFT tapping. Would that be one of the mind body practices that you would include?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not one that is included in the Center for Mind Body Medicine, Mind Body Skills
Oh,
groups. But I think that's a really good example of once you bring this awareness of integrating your mind and your body, you see it in so many different ways. And there are lots of somatic therapeutic tools and EMDR as and EFT tapping are ways that you're connecting your mind and your body and doing something physical to process something mental.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
I find it very efficacious. This is totally off the wall, what I'm going to say next, but I joke with my friends from church that when Jesus was on the cross and he said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do, he could have been saying, Father, forgive them, their prefrontal cortex is severely impaired, you know. So anyway, since
yeah,
you mentioned that
I
earlier,
like to think that with teenagers and yeah, I was just saying like their prefrontal cortex is not all the way developed, but yes, in
exactly.
general, when we don't act in accordance with our values, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning of part of my why. Sometimes I'll kind of snap at my kids and I'm like, why am I doing that? It's like, oh, because I'm not regulated. My nervous system is not regulated. My brain is not connecting with each other. And so we all experience that in different ways.
I don't have a particular question, but there was just a couple things I wanted to comment on. I wasn't actually aware that the number of neural connections from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex like could be responsible for some difficulties with emotion regulation. And there's some other things that you said too. So I thought that was um fascinating. And then also, I'm just thinking about how good of a tool one of these skills groups can be for someone that is still needing more stabilization before some deeper trauma processing, like for
Hmm.
clinicians.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just because yeah, it provides like structure around some of these more somatic techniques to help them get regulated and connected again with their body. Like I'm picturing that this is probably really beneficial for a lot of dissociative
Hmm.
clients as well. And so yeah, I'm just thinking up here of like,
Hmm.
whoo, I know a couple of people that I think would be a perfect fit for this
Yes, and
group.
you brought up something too, is that I always start groups by saying like this is not group therapy.
Mhm.
Um, and that can be a little bit because sometimes when people are in a group and we're talking about mental health, they're like, this is my chance, this is my group there. And you're like, well, no, but it's a great reminder. It could definitely bring things up that would be great for you to work with a therapist about. And there are a lot of things. Kind of what I talked about tapping into your inner wisdom is that sometimes things will come up that you don't realize or something could be triggering. But it can be a really great way to prepare for actual trauma processing with a clinician. And it also can help maybe um yeah, put open the door to people who maybe haven't been involved with therapy yet to say, oh, actually, I'm seeing that this is something that I need to dive deeper into with a therapist. Mhm.
I also really liked how you said the facilitators are also the participants. I think that's one thing that I really like from the ACT model is that like I'm also just a human. I'm climbing my mountain, you're climbing yours, and I just may have a different vantage point than you because I'm on a different mountain. But I think it normalizes somewhat the human experience and yeah, it takes away any sort of power dynamic
Hmm.
could be intimidating for a client. But it also, I think it really just normalizes the human experience for people, which can be very therapeutic. So
Hmm. Yeah.
Forgot to add that as you were describing the group, I realized that I'm in such a group actually. So it's called a centering prayer group, and we meet once a week on a Wednesday evening for a couple about 2 hours, and we sit for 20 minutes just quietly in our own personal meditative state. And then we discuss the chapter of a book that we've been reading. But and everybody participates, including the facilitator. So it was kind of neat to be affirmed in how you describe the groups, because that's exactly kind of what we do in our group.
That's awesome.
Yeah. If anybody listening is interested in that group that I'm just described, let me know. I'd be happy to send you an email to invite you.
Great. And if there aren't any other questions, we could do some kind of closing meditations. Um, so last call for any questions. Okay. So we're gonna do some breathing exercises, and one of my favorites, we're gonna do elevator breathing. And so this is kind of integrating breathing with visualization and can help you kind of focus. Um, for some people who maybe struggle with just breathing, this can be a different tool that you can use, and they are able to kind of focus better. And so if you close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath, imagine that your breath is an elevator that's going to start with your toes and move up and down your body like an elevator. So first, we're going to start by imagining that wiggle your toes and imagine that all of your oxygen is in your toes, and we're going to breathe in from our toes to our knees and out from our knees to our toes. Now from our toes to our hips and from our hips to our toes. With each breath, we're getting deeper. So we're going from our toes to our belly button, from our belly button to our toes. Now imagine your breath from your toes up your spine to your neck. And breathe out from your neck down your spine to your toes. Now breathe in from your toes up your body and down your arms to your fingers. And breathe out from your fingers back to your toes. Now breathe in from your toes to your jaw. And from your jaw to your toes. And from your toes to your brain all the way up. And from your brain to your toes. Let's do that one again, from our toes all the way up our body to our brain. And out from our brain to our toes. Open your eyes and kind of check in with your body and see how that felt. And then another breathing exercise that I like is intentions. And so as you breathe in, you're inviting something into your mind and your body, an intention that you would like to incorporate. And as you breathe out, you're letting go of something that you want to get rid of. And so, and this is one that really helps me kind of recenter if I'm mentally just negative or spiraling. And so I think just focusing on my breath and inviting those intentions can kind of shift that for me. So I'm going to share some intentions, and then at the end, we'll just take some breaths and you can notice what intentions might come up for you that you need to hear today that you want for yourself. And so first, we're going to breathe in focus, breathe out distraction, breathe in energy, breathe out exhaustion. Breathe in love, breathe out fear. Breathe in abundance, breathe out scarcity. Breathe in hope, breathe out despair. Breathe in acceptance, breathe out criticism. Breathe in empathy. Breathe out dehumanization. Now just breathe and notice what comes up for you. When you're ready, open your eyes. Would anyone want to share if there was an intention that I shared that really resonated with you, or if your own intention came up for you that you would be willing to share? Or you can share what this was like for you if you notice kind of a shift in your mind or in your body after doing it, or anything about the elevator breathing.
The intention part kind of helps you connect to all the negative emotions that it's so easy to connect to throughout the day and the week, and reminding us that we have alternatives.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I also like that, yeah, it brings that noticing and awareness, and then also that sense of power of like, I can consciously let go of that. I can consciously invite more of this into myself. And it's not magic wand, and then you don't feel any more judgment or any more despair, but it can be a practice that helps kind of bring those intentions into your body.
We have choices.
Mhm.
I'm such a I'm a big proponent of like mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, but as I'm sitting here and we've like been doing a couple of breathing exercises, it's just like registering me how much I forget to breathe throughout my day. Like even if I'm teaching breathing to clients, like I don't always, prioritize ending my day with some breath work or some meditative work. And so just as we were just doing that last round of breathing, I'm just it seems like every time I do it, I'm just like amazed at how quickly and effective it is, like how much more peace and like groundedness that I feel, even just after doing, how many did we do? Three different breathing exercises and one guided imagery. So yeah, I think it just really speaks to the powerfulness of these tools.
Thank you for sharing that. And I agree. And it is so interesting how kind of what I've been talking about as well of like practicing it yourself, especially if you're in a role and like teaching or in sharing this with other people. When I was working on the presentation, all of a sudden I noticed that my shoulders were tense, and I was like, you're literally doing a presentation about like the relaxation response, like lower your shoulders, relax. And so I think it's a practice, and it's just building that awareness and noticing when what you can do and how it feels. And yeah, thank you for sharing that.
We are just about out of time. So I just wanted to, everybody, if you can give a virtual round of applause for Erica for spending her Friday evening and all the effort that she put in for this wonderful presentation. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I did speak with Erica. She is okay with me sharing her slides. So if you were interested in having these slides shared with you, if you could also just message that TICN@gmail.com and I can send you Erica's slides. And then just a reminder again, if you are wanting your CEU certificate, if you could also message that TICNutah@gmail.com email. But thank you very much for your presence, Erica. Thank you for your guidance tonight and enhancing our presence.
Mhm.
And yeah. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to email.
Mhm. Thank you for coming.
It's excellent. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Appreciate it.